Hello, good evening, and welcome to another Webster report. Obviously, thanks for all the messages I got from about the show last week. Due to some unforeseen events, things like people being lost in various cities in the UK and trains being cancelled, it just became it got too fine a point to actually be able to do the show last week. So rather than just bungle everything together, which we try and do on most weeks, to be fair, but we thought we'd take another rest as we try and put all this stuff together because we've got a lot of things coming all at once now, and it seems like there's distractions being brought up. I've noticed the MH370 aeroplane that they've got new evidence to where that might be. All the conspiracy theories behind that about the nuclear warhead microchip that was on that, patented by only 5 people. 4 of them were on that plane. And if 4 of them have gone, then 4 parts of that patent all go to the 5th. So the 5th member of that consortium owns the full patent now. That just so happens to be a Rothschild. But that'd just be a conspiracy theory, that wouldn't it, Alex?
I think the biggest conspiracy is suggesting that conspiracy theories exist, mate. They don't, clearly. Because I've decided that I am now the person who defines the whole of reality. So,
well, there's definitely no theories. I'm running out of theories, man.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, so I can't wish hello to everyone individually because I can't join the chat. This device won't let me function on the chat. I can look at the chat, but it won't let me join it. So a few people have said hello to everyone. Hello, everyone. A couple of weeks now. But yeah, good to see everyone. And hopefully we can, have a chat about some of the things that have been going down.
Well, some of the stuff that's going on this week, you'd think there's like massive things moving forward. Like what we'd talk about big things, but they're not. They're all the old things that are coming back. I've noticed that there's an article in the Manchester Evening News that asking, is Britain ready for the next pandemic? The testing again, Alex. They're pushing for this. I noticed on one of your articles you'd posted about, do you remember when you were banging pots and pans and that? Do you think we're going to go back to these idiots who were walking around with plastic cubicles round themselves in trolleys with holes in them? Are we really going to go back to all this?
I don't think the I think at the time, I mean, we talk about the word for phrase psyop. I mean, it's a psychological operation, just running a program or a test on everyone, or is it them doing research? So for me, what they were doing at the time, I mean, those people banging pots and pans, no offense if anyone on the chat was doing that and has woke up since, but how a seal would clap its flippers together and go, arf, arf, like, give it a beach ball. I mean, it was so crude. You had to be virtually brain dead not to realise at the time, come to the front door, get your spoon, bang the bottom of your pan, say thank you, NHS. I mean, it's so small-minded, it's beyond belief. And yet, so many retarded people did it, but they didn't realise. I mean, not only were we being mocked, those of us who did it, and being lauded for being supportive of the NHS, but they were getting to see firsthand just how stupid the people are. And that's why Keir Starmer is running a steamroller through all policies now, knowing that there's not going to be any sort of major backlash unless he really crosses a line. And he has been really crossing lines. He's having, not just backbench revolts, he's getting revolt right across the board with, the benefits, welfare reforms and everything. So it's pretty stark what he's doing, hitting the ground running by imprisoning people for, tweets. So putting fear into people and saying you can't speak out. It's appropriate to call the UK government a regime. I mean, they're fond of talking about regime change and, the regime in Russia, but this is a regime. And I think we should use these words all the time. I think in common parlance, I say it all the time. I talk about, when is the current regime going to be replaced? I think what we've got to do is use the same techniques that the leftists have used without even thinking about it. Tell it like it is. Don't make an apology or an excuse for the language that you're using. I mean, be dignified, be decent about it, but make no mistake, we're living in a regime, we're living in a ridiculous autocracy. I mean, they'll call Trump, no matter what you think of Trump, he's a dictator, but nobody's calling Keir Starmer a dictator, which I find incredible.
I think JD Vance and Trump indicated that it was quite kind of dictatorial that people were going into jail for 2 years for a naughty tweet. This is it's quite dangerous when you look back in history, because this is how it's always happened. They start making those interjections with people. First off, it's people who go against them. Then it'll be political figures who are going against them. We've seen all this before, haven't we, Alex? There's nothing new here. And the rumblings now are that they're going to do conscriptions. Now, if they're going to start conscripting for a war in the Ukraine against Russia, when we're being told that the Ukrainians are winning, people have got to surely have some common sense somewhere. Come on, can we find some common sense somewhere, mate?
No. If somebody gives them a pan and a wooden spoon, they'll take that instead. I mean, I had someone today. I made a post today, right? Which, to be fair, I got it off the Community Assemblies group from Mark Vishner, and it's this guy who's posting about what really happened in Ukraine. And I got somebody who's a writer. I've got quite a few writers and authors on my Facebook. And I've not heard from this woman called Helen. I can't remember the last time. I don't think she's personally engaged with me. And it was this long spiel pointing out the whole con of the West in terms of Ukraine. And she must have got about 1.5 paragraphs in. And what she did, she said, I'm not reading any further, because if this person can't make a proper distinction between Kiev, like we have chicken Kiev, because over here it's Kiev, and because of all these lunatics calling it Kyiv, Kyiv, they're almost trying to imply that if we say Kiev, which is the anglicized version, that's a form of cultural appropriation, that we aren't using the proper name. And she used that as a reason to dismiss the whole argument. I mean, there's like several paragraphs going into great detail proving that it's been a Western operation in Ukraine since 2014. And anyone who knows the real story knows that that's true. And he went through paragraph by paragraph and he blew it all out of the water. And then this bird...
Go on, sorry.
This bird just come on and said, oh, well, I've got to stop reading right now, because if someone can't even get the facts right and calls it Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, K-I-E-V, not K-Y-I-V, Kyiv, then the article's got no credibility. I mean, how can you have somebody so completely dumb as to make out that the reason to not read the truth that they don't want to read anyway is because somebody spelt it in a way that's the anglicized version of Kiev rather than the way that the Ukrainians spell it? I mean, it's such a
question, isn't it? That was a rhetorical question. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's so many things that they changed the wordings and changed how things are said. Something so simple, right? When I grew up, it was called oil of Ulay that they used to sell. Then it became oil of Olay. And I can still hear my mum now. Every time the advert come on, it's not bloody Olay, it's Ulay, shouting at the telly.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if they start changing those little things, you get to a point where all the older things are completely forgotten about. Now, if you can iron out common sense as well, Alex, you've got a dangerous situation, because you've got a younger generation that don't know how to think, because the education system doesn't teach you how to think, teaches you what to think, and it scores you on what you have been told. And if you don't regurgitate exactly what you've been told, you get marked down. So anybody who goes through the education system who can think is never going to do well in that education system, because you're always going to ask questions of it. I've never been to theological college, Alex, but the questions that I ask you, you know that I would be sat there asking those questions and they'd be saying the same things what they said to you. I preferred you when you
Yeah,
didn't believe. Yeah, what's the point you being here? I can't go along with what people have been taught anymore. When I ask a question about things, if you can't answer that, other than calling me names or just because everybody does it, it's not a good enough answer anymore. And it's not just about scripture, it's about everyday life. I'll bang on every week. Paying your bills is wrong, Alex. In this debt based economy, paying them is wrong. How can you just go about your business? I know you have to, but how does that not rock your world that your parents, your grandparents have all been ripped off? They're ripping people off right now. They're putting council
yeah,
tax. The amount of posts I'm seeing now about people saying, let's not pay council tax, let's not do this. But you need a reason as to why. Standing in a courtroom and saying you fund terrorism with council tax, it's not going to wash. You know, understand about this jurisdictional thing because that's the key to it, Alex. The Mr. Misses for me, every time we register something, it's being registered in a different jurisdiction. So our houses, even though they're not commercial, they are deemed capable of being commercial. And until they're proved otherwise, council tax will apply to that. And all the utility companies will ask for payment because they're treating you all as shopkeepers of shops. So that's the jurisdictional thing. But when you're going into these courts, you've got people who are paying bills, you've got people who are paying council tax, solicitors, barristers. That black belt barrister tried to say everybody must pay council tax. How can you be a barrister and not understand Section 3 of the Local Government Finance Act unless you've not read it? Because black belt barristers should be able to black belt Section 3 out the universe, shouldn't it? But he doesn't. He says everybody must pay. It's not the case. It only applies to commercial property and buildings attached to commercial property and being used for commerce, being used to store
yeah.
property that is for the business. Now, with all this going up, we've got all these people saying, let's just not pay. Let's all get together and understand why we shouldn't. So that when you're in a courtroom and you're asked a question, you can answer it. You don't get lost with anything by just going in and saying, I'm a man, I have no
But
contract. Doesn't work.
there's a deeper pathology here, Paul, which it just strikes me when you talk about this. I think we need to dig a bit deep into why it is. And I'll tell you why. No, I'm not going to tell you why I think it is. I'll tell you why I know it is. So we were having a meeting with my friend a few days back who's a philosopher, pure academic philosopher with many, many interests. And philosophers are very interesting. In regards to what you make of spirituality and faith, philosophers are on a quest for truth. And they don't always get it right, but they have a rigorous method. But what I would say is this: the reason why we have these problems about like paying your bills, which actually is a lot harder to spot than other things, is for one reason and one reason alone, because people have lost critical thinking skills or perhaps never even had them.
Yeah.
What they do, they equate their experience with what is true. Now you can see that, right, in romance. How many people in the first flushes of a romantic encounter, unless they've been rendered cynical by several failed ones, and then they become, say, bitter and twisted because harsh experiences taught them that the romantic model doesn't work, or at least not in their case. Then they go to the opposite extreme, and then they don't believe anything is possible. So then they go to the opposite extreme that everything's fake, no romance is possible, it's all a scam. Now the truth's got to be somewhere in the middle. But just on that simple case, Hollywood movies, since the Industrial Revolution, so probably in the last 200 years, our notions of love and relationship have been totally revolutionized through Hollywood notions, romantic notions, and the like. And can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically, you can apply it in that domain and every other domain. So the reality is, what you experience is true. So most people get the news, say, from the BBC, or they're told that anybody who doesn't follow the narrative, so they'll automatically accept the climate change narrative because it's dominant. So what they're experiencing is the reinforcing of a message by always seeing the same message. Now, you know, they can't solve the problem at scale. They're not going to get a bunch of experimental, you know, tools out. They're not going to go and study the geological record going back hundreds and hundreds of years, medieval warm period, and so on and so forth. They're not going to be interested in that. They're not going to study geology and rock formations because they'll find it easier to be subjected to the narrative. And if a person repeats a narrative enough times to them from the mainstream, they will be experiencing that. And as soon as there's nothing beyond experience, that's it. What you experience is the truth. And there's a reason for that. It's because it makes your life easier. If you have to think, you then have to exist in a different narrative than the mainstream narrative, which is painful. So actually, the rewards and punishments for doing that are quite considerable. So just believe your experience. So again, that's why all these people who believe in cosmic ordering, because there's no ethics, there's no values, there's no cost, there's no take up your cross like Jesus Christ and suffer pain. Who wants to do that? No, I had a great experience. So I visualized my BMW or my Mazda, and and then it happened. And I don't really care why it happened. I don't want to investigate what was going on. All I know was I wanted this, which, let's face it, most people would naturally want to have more things, £1 million or whatever. So if they have a magic wand, they just use the magic wand to get the money. So it doesn't work like that until it does. So if a person has an experience of cosmic ordering, somebody says, oh, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then you get this, and then the thing that you ordered cosmically, you get it. It's all about positive thinking. If they do it and it seems to work, they won't ask why it works because they won't care. So the goal is for a lazy human being, which most human beings are, they want the line of least resistance, they want the simplest path, and they want an easy life. So that's the problem. If you reduce everything to experience, truth is going to be the casualty.
Yeah. Just to comment on Ten Dogs Donny, what they put about council tax needing an individual bill, a true bill of requirements. It's not operating like that with council tax. If you open a shop in a town centre, you don't consent to paying business rates. You pay business rates or you don't have a shop. So what they're saying is, what you have business rates, and if they don't hit the full potential, it drops to council tax, which must still be part of the business. But they've now got us all acting as shopkeepers because of how we register things and how we've been taught. So yes, if you were paying for services, you require a true bill. But shops still need ambulance and police because they have shoplifters, they have thieves, they have people who might have a medical episode, especially these days, in the shop while they're buying a Mars bar. So shops must pay for that, as well as the individuals in the private homes must pay for it. So if you pay taxes, you are paying for all that. If you're paying national insurance, you are paying for all that. Well, the shops don't get free rubbish removal. They don't get free ambulances. They don't get free police. They don't get free fire. They've got to pay extra out of their profits, just like they've got to pay for the gas, water, electric out of those profits and put that back into the coffers of the taxpayer whose utilities that they've used. That's how simple it sounds to me. Now, how do we correct this jurisdiction? We keep going on about the birth certificate and the trusts. Somehow we are lost at sea, yet they speak to us in such a way that we consent to being lost but being here. But when we are there, we take up the adversarial position against our trust. And as our trustees, the government will pummel us. So it's all about how it's designed if we're not there. It's somebody making a challenge against our trust, against our vehicle, against our utilities. So it's not as simple as saying, well, you must give me a bill for this, this, and this. If they gave you a bill for it, you'd be paying for it twice because you're already paying taxes. But so they can't bill you for it, but a shop can be billed for it. So it's all about pretending. That's the way I see it, anyway, Alex.
Well, have you seen here the beer guy said, and I know a couple of weeks ago we got derailed with this because some things happened. And he said, "Can I come on in a bit, read a council tax?" Now, we were due to have another guest. I think it was going to come on with our American correspondent Taylor, who I think might not be coming on. The guest that Taylor had. So
No,
maybe
it's not.
maybe the beer guy's going to come on later on. But what I would say, even at this point, before he does, let's just say he finds a remedy for himself. And he experiments, which is, I think we've got to expect that people should try stuff. I don't think we can expect people to have the perfect method in advance because we know how difficult it is, but try. So he's trying, right? Now, the thing about that is that might provide a solution for him. However, what systems sometimes do, if someone tries to take a piece of the empire, they'll give them a little piece of the empire. Or they won't allow a local kerfuffle to become a bigger kerfuffle. So they'll just appease them. They'll let that go rather than creating precedent. So the point is, I think we can get partial solutions sometimes that are not the perfect solutions to rectify the problem at source, but they still work for the individual. So I think there's two different aspects to this. In a way, you could argue it's not a protest because we know about protests, but if everybody actions using their own intelligence and their own will, and they come with arguments that they throw at the system, they're making life difficult for the system. And in some cases, it might be better to have imperfect arguments. It might be better, right, to have 15,000 different imperfect arguments that aren't, strictly speaking, the correct way to do it, but they've got merit, but they're all different. It's a bit like with petitions. If you have 15,000 people signing one petition, it's different than 15,000 independent people not signing a petition and going down to their MP and putting pressure on. And I think that we can sometimes think that the goal is for everybody to understand exactly what the problem is and for everybody else to identify the exactly perfect remedy, because that would be more effective than 15,000 people doing a cack-handed job but showing the willing, because you never learn anything in life without trial and error. You know, you're not born knowing the perfect solution. Wisdom is acquired over time through trial and error by making mistakes. So the problem is, if people sit on their hands longing for solutions, perfect solutions that drop down from heaven, they'll be waiting a long time. And sometimes, as we know with perfectionism, it's trying to get the perfect solution before it even takes the first step on the journey. So I think real activism should become committed to actions where there's no guaranteed outcome, but what actually is happening is the person is advocating for themselves. And I think this is one of the problems with justice as well, because if you're driven by a model of justice, you could be being driven by childhood pain, shaking your fist against the system because it hurt you. Well, that's not the most effective way to engage in operations. You should be pretty cold, clinical, and efficient, and you should make arguments that are specific to your circumstances. Like, I'm not going to use the arguments that are relevant to somebody else's circumstances in my situation. So I do think that it makes a lot of sense for people to come in the fullest awareness that they've got now and fight the fight and advocate for themselves, even if imperfectly sometimes. I think that's perhaps better.
And again, I know loads of people who are attacking this from so many different angles. All I can say is that I know what the baseline is, that it's being treated into a different jurisdiction. So if I can change a council tax bill, an invoice, or as Rich is saying, he can prove it's a bill. If I can change that into something else and set it off, that means I don't have to pay for it. Well, that's what a creditor does. If I'm going to council tax bill, I'm a debtor. So this is where we're going to have this clash here, because we can't have the two jurisdictions don't mix. I'm either Paul or I'm Mr. Paul. I can't be both. I can act as Mr. Paul when I want to, but I'm being told that I'm acting as Mr. Paul when I'm not. So I need to correct that jurisdiction. I need to correct what I've done with my property. I need to get that into private jurisdiction. I need to get
Yeah, I
it
mean,
out of the possibility in commerce. Go on.
I get it, but let's just take the argument regarding Keir Starmer. Everyone has known that technically he's wrong on every point that he's implemented since the minute he got in. Technically, it's a rogue state that imprisons people for using their freedom of speech on minor issues, but that didn't stop him. And the technical point was not able to be leveraged by anybody against the Prime Minister because of the power that he had to act unilaterally, because he believed he'd been given a mandate for 5 years. And it's taking so many things he's doing. The technical points are obvious. The technical points of truth are obvious in a lot of these situations. So, for me, it's like, do we need the technical points in a parallel, or do we just need people to make enough noise and go, this is immoral, this is wrong?
That's what I always said, Alex. We were doing what we were doing. So with the utilities, we had the joint gyro credit. With the council tax, we knew it was the wrong jurisdiction, so we went with what we knew, and we knew that we were bringing remedy. If everybody else was doing what they were doing all at the same time, but taking it to a court, because it doesn't matter how many people we put on notice. You know yourself how many people has been put on notice under the consortium that you were in. All the constabularies were put on notice, but what happened? Nothing, because nobody else did it. Because people want other people to do something all the time. It's for me, it's the jurisdiction. We've got to correct that jurisdiction. If we'd have stayed in Europe, we'd have been under by now. We'd have already been under. Keir Starmer wouldn't have put the odd ones in jail. Everybody would have been going to jail for naughty tweets.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Luke, everyone's like saying, come on, let's get Beer Guy on. And I know we've got Taylor coming on at some point. Which way around should we do it then?
You decide.
Well, that's like choosing between a scone and a chocolate eclair.
I don't know what a scone is, mate. Do you mean a scone?
Oh, you say scone? Oh, let's have a debate about whether it's correct to say scone or scone, Shrewsbury or Shrewsbury, so on and so forth. We can have fun with that one. Yeah, get Beer Guy on.
I'll have to send him the link. Go on, do some talking while I'm clicking, mate.
Well, I was wanting to say something to Taylor, who'll be waiting in the chat room, saying, we could have saved the best till last, mate. Just so you don't get frustrated. Yeah, we don't have a running order every week for how we're going to do things. We do wing it a little bit. But, yeah. I see Dennis said a scone, lol. The thing is, a scone, I don't know if that... Dennis, put in the chat whether you think a scone. If you think it's scone, put SCON. And if you think it's scone, then spell it with an E. People used to think that scone was posh, and others thought scone was posh. I don't know.
Well, you'll be telling me that it's not a chip balm next. You'll be telling me it's a chip tea cake or something stupid.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, a lot of people say the technically correct position is scone.
Of course, it's scone. Of course, it is. Not scone.
No, it's scone. I can't be having it. Scone.
Rich, I've sent you the link, mate. Send you a link.
Dorian's being very precise because he's an Oscar Wilde fan, based on a picture of Dorian Gray. Is he going to say Dorian Gray or Dorian Gray? I mean, we can go on forever with that. Is the O an O or is it an O? Is it Dorian Gray or Dorian Gray?
I'd say Dorian. A
lot of people say Dorian. So I'd be interested to know what Mr. Gray thinks. Oh yeah, what's under the pyramids? That's a good point, actually. I was going to mention that earlier and got distracted because talking about me, my mate, my philosopher mate, who normally won't look at anything that could be considered to be connected to sacred geometry or anything like that. Even though he's into Pythagoras and so on, he probably wouldn't say it the spiritual dimension. This discovery under the pyramids is obviously it's a pretty big deal, and it proves my point as well about truth and experience, because as soon as the experience has been validated and comes out to the mainstream that there's been a discovery, that's an experience of an artifact using archaeology. So then people go, oh well, I'm experiencing it because they've given me the experience by reporting about it, and therefore people now go, wow, that's incredible. There's this incredible 400-meter deep thing beneath this pyramid, and all these chambers have been found. So watch this space. But yeah, it is a big deal.
Yeah. Taylor, what have you got for us?
Well, first off, I apologize to everyone. I was going to have a guest on, but something came up, and unfortunately, that wasn't able to happen. It might maybe next week. Hopefully, next week it'll happen, but not this week.
And that's on the Schofield Bible, is that? Did I hear right from Paul?
I believe so. Yeah.
He wants to speak about how the Schofield Bible helped to set up Zionism.
Right.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. And also, there's one other part. I'd have to look at the email again, but it's essentially about the Schofield Bible and all that stuff. But so, well, first of all, let me ask, how's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? Is everyone doing all right?
We're doing what we're doing. Yeah. We keep going.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Taylor. About yourself?
I'm doing all right. Just same old. I got a new phone. Yeah, and I like it because it actually functions properly.
Have you got your own Wi-Fi yet?
What?
Have you got your own Wi-Fi yet?
I think it has Wi-Fi on it. I haven't really tested that out yet. I haven't needed to, but I think it does.
Well, if you've got data and your mum turns your Wi-Fi off again, you can hotspot it.
That's a good point. I can do that. Yeah.
That'll be sticking it to her.
Yeah, sticking it to the man, as they say, or in this case, the woman.
Anyway, Taylor, how's your Trump sucking going on?
Huh.
This is what Kipper Trace is saying. So he says he can't listen, Taylor. I don't know what that's about, but obviously you've been doing some Trump sucking. So have you got some Trump sucking for us, or is there something a bit different than that?
Well, first of all, to Kipper Trace, that's your prerogative. It is what it is. But yeah. So things. Oh man, yeah. This last week, again with the winning, more and more winning. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Department of Education. Trump promised to get rid of it. He's getting rid of it. Yeah, and what's awesome about that is this isn't the first time that an American president has tried to get rid of the Department of Education. In fact, the first time it happened was because it was enacted into law in the late 70s under Carter. Reagan actually tried to destroy the Department of Education. Unfortunately, that wasn't able to go through because the Congress and the Senate were both completely conquered by the Democrat Party, and so was his cabinet. It was full of neocons. So, yeah, Reagan was a good guy, but unfortunately, he got neutered by the fact that he ended up, getting shot, and that pretty much taught him the lesson to stay in line. So Bush pretty much ran his administration. So unfortunately, it is what it is. But that's what happens when you try to be a lone army and try to act by yourself. It doesn't really work. that's why things are so different. You can tell things are different nowadays because there are just certain things that you just don't touch. There are just certain agencies and organizations that you're just not allowed to touch under normal circumstances. But those days have come to an end, and it's really awesome because, I mean, I don't think I need to describe to you exactly what the Department of Education is and what it's responsible for. And go ahead.
I was just going to bring up about the JFK files. The stuff that I've seen so far, Taylor, it's nothing new. They've not brought anything new out. It's the same old stuff, a little bit more detailed, but we're still looking at Lee Harvey Oswald. We're still, there's not much meat coming out. And I get that they're probably teasing it out because I think the JFK stuff, and I don't know if you heard us talking about the MH370 flight earlier, that's now being regurgitated that they think they might have new evidence where they'll find that. So it's almost like we're being distracted from something. So I'm looking for you to tell me if there's something that you can see in the pipeline that is happening that maybe we're missing.
Okay. Well, first off, I'll just say that it's actually not true that we haven't learned anything from the JFK files and that we haven't gotten anything juicy out of them. We actually have. Well, first of all, there's 80,000 documents to go through. We still got people going through them now. But so far, we've gotten out of them. We've gotten some interesting.
Stop. Give me something juicy now. Give me something juicy.
Well, first of all, we have confirmation, and by confirmation, I mean JFK files confirmation that Israel was that Kennedy was not really that friendly with Israel, and that they were trying to push him for to be able to have nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
and we already know about the whole Dimona situation. So that's something that we've already known, but it's becoming more mainstream now, and that's the point of this whole thing. I just want to mention real quick to anyone who thought that we were going to get some kind of smoking gun or something out of this. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what kind of files come out or what kind of document gets declassified or whatever. The normies, the general population is not going to quote unquote wake up to the fact that there was a conspiracy until the whores on the top of whore academia tell the public that this is what the accepted consensus is, because that's just unfortunately what the public has been dumbed down to doing, is to they don't believe anything until quackademia and the mainstream media tell you, oh yeah, this is this is the now consensus of the matter. So that wasn't the point of releasing these files. The main point really is to remember, this is 5th generation warfare. We're building a narrative right now, which is you release the JFK files, but that's when the deep state took out assassinated a U.S. president and completely took over the government. Then Trump says the MLK files are going to be coming out next. That's when they took out a highly popular activist, and then cemented their power into the cultural realm. And then finally, they're going to release the last one, the Epstein files, which will go along with the Israeli narrative, because as we know, the Israel being safe for last whole thing. And thankfully, that we're having that narrative built up right now. That's how it's really working. You release some content, you get some people riled up and asking questions, you cause some controversies, and by causing controversies, you're getting people to speak and ask questions and be interested in these subjects, rather than just going and just saying, oh, the Jews killed Kennedy. If they said something like that, that would cause a whole headache of problems. So I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I may not be explaining it the best, but essentially, I pretty much foresaw this was what was going to happen, and that it's pretty much right according to them, to the plan going forward. Did I answer your question?
Sorry, mate. I'm just trying to do three things at once here.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, yes and no. Yes and no, I suppose. It's like I say, all these things that are coming out, Taylor, I find them as distractions. I know you see them as progress and winning. I mean, somebody in the chat room mentioned about, because you'd said that the Pope was dead, yeah, he's been wheeled out onto a balcony earlier today, Taylor. He's coming out of hospital tomorrow. Is that not the same Pope? Is that what you think?
Well, I mean, this goes back to the Queen thing. We knew that the Queen was dead long before the actual physical reveal of her announcement, and that's
Yeah,
what
but
they
they didn't
usually
wheel her
do.
out anywhere. They didn't wheel her out anywhere, did they?
No, they didn't. Or actually, did they? I don't remember. It's been a little while, but
Well, he was on the balcony waving. He was on the balcony waving, mate.
No, it's a fake Pope. The Pope's in Wigan. Just ask Peccareggi.
He doesn't like pies, mate. He doesn't like pies. He's not going to be in Wigan.
No, I'm telling you, Peccareggi will tell you. He confirmed sighting of the Pope in Wigan.
No, Peccareggi says that the Black Pope's Bill Cosby, and I know that's not true.
fucking Bill Cosby. Oh boy, that's pretty funny. You know, the funny thing is, I've actually never seen any of Bill Cosby's shows ever or movies.
Oh, I used to watch the Cosby Show for when I was a kid. Used to watch that.
Huh? Yeah, I've never seen it. I think that was before my time. But you know, about the Pope, you know, he was switched out a long time ago. I'm sure you saw that infamous clip of him, you know, disappearing while he's on the window. He just vanishes.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that one. I saw that CGI one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's not evidence to show stuff like that. Like me and Alex have had loads of conversations about different things, and it's not like we can't um, we can't present evidence to say that it's contrary, but we can't present evidence to say, well, this is the facts, and this is now wrong. You know, it comes down to the shape of the world. I've been told by known liars what all this world is, so I've got questions to ask. I can't ask those questions because everybody knows, well, that's not right for me. So it's not that I've got this model now and I'm going to replace it with that. That can't be done because I don't know. But the
But
fact
you
is,
can, Paul. You can do it now. You can say, well, what about them pyramids in Egypt?
what about them?
Well, because for how long has that kind of thing, even though it's hidden in plain sight, everybody knows. And then you're into Tartaria, mud floods, whether you go the full flat earth og that everyone wants, but there's clearly architecture that's way beyond their capacity. So you're talking ancient civilizations. Now, there's a lot of interesting questions come from that, but it's like it's going to become undeniable, regardless of whether people conclude that there's ancient aliens. There's a new set of facts, a new reality opened up based on archaeological excavation, and it's not been kept out of the mainstream. So that's going to be interesting if that's challenging consensus reality, because people have been speculating for a long time about Atlantis, antediluvian civilizations. How did the pyramids get here? How could they possibly build it? We were supposed to believe that they pulled, 70-ton rocks on small logs, and then how did they winch them up and build them on top of each other? So I think it's going to get easier because you'll be able to say things like, well, it's not just the pyramid theory now that a bunch of loons are talking about. It's like the architectural structures, something's been found within them, unless they're going to somehow silence that. So maybe things are going to change on that score.
Well, I don't know. I'm not. The article flashed up about it because it was talking about are the pillars of Enoch under him. It's interesting to see what they keep finding. But when they went into Iraq, and the first thing they did was loot all the museums, and they believe that they found the body, the tomb of Gilgamesh, and they
Yeah.
can extract DNA from this. And when you look at when you go back and look at the articles, Gilgamesh and Nimrod could be the same, the same entity. Now Nimrod became something because of the bloodline that he was involved in. They still portray these bloodlines. This is why they all intermarry and intermingle. So it's going to be interesting, my friend.
Yeah, Turing's Road as well. And welcome back, Pekareggy. All is forgiven. Well, it is from my side. I can't speak for anyone else. But Luke, let's have a party. Let's have a reconciliation. We're going to get Beer Guy on in a bit. Will we get the Pecker up? See what
He's on.
Who, Pecker?
No, be a guy. If you need unmute, Rich.
Yo. How we doing?
Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. I've got a bad back, so I can't stay still too much.
No worries. It's like I said. When I put on about when the phone's moving about a lot, I get a lot of messages saying that it's confusing. I can't be bothered watching it, so I'm just trying to do that. Taylor's the same. He's got a bad back, so that's why he's normally lying down as if he thinks he's the Queen of Sheba or something like that.
Hey, I'm not the queen. I'm the king. That's what I am.
Yeah.
Come on, Rich. Show us how to do this council tax stuff. Give us the remedy, pal. Come on.
Right. So when you get it through post, it's a council tax bill, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
I'd say it's up for debate. You can say it's a bill, but if a shop's getting it, I would say it's an invoice.
On the front,
I know what it says. I know what it says, mate, but all the rest are in boxes.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Yeah. So it says council tax bill. Yeah. It's got date of bill at the top that's not in the box. It's got this one isn't in a box, but it says a guide to your council tax bill, and the bill's in the middle of a sentence, and it's in all capitals. So further down on here, I'd already sent my other one off. This is the New Year's. So down here, you'll not be able to read it because I've endorsed it, but I'll read it to you. So memorandum note, it says, as at 7th of March 2025, your 24-25 council tax account is in credit by 139.69. So it's in credit. I ain't paid nothing. I've endorsed it and sent it to them. And then underneath, this has reduced your 25-26 account to leave a balance of 101731. The credit from 24-25 has been used to reduce your installments. Yeah.
Are you doing that every month, Rich? Is it every month that you're endorsing that?
It's whenever they send them. But yeah, I need to stand up, mate. I need to walk around. I can't sit like this. Sorry. Oh. Right. I did this on Vobes. I was walking around on Vobes. I'll try and stand over here and read it. So yeah, I did. It does say instalments are due on or before the instalment date. So I'm guessing they will start sending one each month. But yeah, that I ain't paid nothing last year. I didn't pay nothing. None of my sweat equity. No money that I make from the job that I do, and I'm in credit by 139.69. So that to me says that whatever I've done and sent it them, that it's worked, and they put a credit on it. And now they're sending this new one for 25-26. I'm just going to do the same again. And hopefully they'll just be like, oh, we've seen this before. And then just be like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, they are going to do. I think it's obvious that what you've done, you've managed to establish your case, and they've decided it's not worth the while to
Yeah,
take it any further, and they'll write it off, which is interesting because that's what I was intimating before, that individuals can do this with variations of the argument because they know most won't. So your quid's in, pal.
yeah.
That's
I've done
encouraging.
water. I've done water as well. I even
Yeah.
laminated this one because I was right happy with it. So I did same with water. Didn't pay any sweat equity with the water. Did the endorsement, sent it off. Had a bit of back and forth or whatever. I've ended up billing both of them. And
Mm,
told them that the maturity of the note is the note that I've sent them, the bill that I've sent them, the bill of exchange that I've sent them back, has now reached maturity, and that I am now due money from them. So I've ended up billing both of them. And then on my water one, it's got all my details on. So I'll see if you can. No, I can't do that. We have to give me details. But yeah, on my water one, it says last bill 26th of November 24. Bill amount £40.59. And then just underneath that, in this purple box, it says your payments, and then it says amount paid since your last bill, £130.85. I have not used a penny of my own money that I get from work to pay either of them, and the council's give me a credit 139, and water are saying that I've paid 130 quid.
yeah.
Interesting.
This is interesting, right? Because what I'd say straight away, it's a good example of adaptive intelligence that you've demonstrated. And I want to ask you a question because, like, you spent quite a bit of time doing this, which is a
Yeah.
labour of love to do it because it can be stressful. But I also am picking up that on some levels you've quite enjoyed it. Would you say that you've been able to enter into this in a spirit of playfulness as well? Have you been being playful with it?
Oh yeah, it's been hilarious, mate. Because
Yeah,
the guy that I keep telling people to go and do his course, and because people are dropping in every day into this Telegram group that I made, they're
yeah,
dropping in every day, and then they're asking questions like questions that people have already asked before. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get everyone onto the same page by
yeah,
doing this course that Brandon's done. And he's funny with it. That's what makes you want to learn it
yeah,
and makes you want to do
yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
He dresses himself up as a pickle, and he wears Borat outfits and does daft
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, he knows what he's on about, and he's
yeah,
paid. He says he's paid. He hasn't showed any proof, but I kind of believe him because of how quick and how much he's exploding and how many countries he's getting to. He says he's paid like 150 or to 200,000 of his own money on Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and all this other stuff, Google AdSense and all that, to try and push
yeah,
his stuff. And
yeah, yeah,
he's used like his Facebook account is he says it's a day, like literally a day one Facebook account, because when Facebook was brought out, it was for only students, weren't it?
yeah, yeah.
And he was a student at the time, so he got his Facebook account then, and he thinks that this is the reason why he's not getting banned or shadowed or anything like that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, what he shows on his website as well, it's what the banks do. It's literally what the banks do.
Mm.
And as far as I can tell, we are the bank as well. We just don't know we are. And we don't act like we are.
That's
We
the
act like
point. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
We are. As a
yeah,
creditor, you are a banker. It depends on what your credit ratings are, but you are a banker. You're able to do this stuff. But we've just been taught to always act as debtor. So
yeah,
the fact that you've been able to go off and do this stuff and get these results, it's important to be able to tell people
yeah,
that there are other things. Because I'll tell you what I get now, Rich, is I get constant messages saying I can't get hold of the gyro anymore. They've refused to issue the gyros. Marks and Spencer's credit cards still issue joint gyros. And I
yeah.
know they work. I know they work. I've been told in court it's the remedy, and I've seen it work with a credit card. The
Mate,
utilities would
mate.
never have accepted it. Go on.
So another thing for the council tax bill, what describe a bill of exchange and what a bill of exchange is, and then you realise that pretty much everything is a freaking bill of exchange, even the receipt that you get from the shop.
Of course, yeah.
The
If
receipt.
they gave you the receipt, if you went into a pub and bought a pint and they gave you a receipt, you can endorse that and put it in the till.
Yeah, yeah.
So there you go.
Like a certificate of deposit is basically what they're giving you, and that's basically saying that they then owe you that money. So
That's it. Yeah, you're right. That's why it's important about this jurisdiction.
yeah.
So is it not the case then? Because adaptive intelligence is inquisitive. So like you're saying, Paul, now, if some people are saying to you that they've stopped issuing the gyro and you're playful, how cool would it be if people just started to do very childlike copies of these things, send them off in a spirit of fun? They'll try and reject them, but when they try and reject them, you say, well, I've got no alternative because you've stopped issuing them. They can't actually gainsay that argument. You've got to create one that they've stopped providing them.
That's why I would be looking to get that into a courtroom, because if you go into a courtroom with that, you can show them that you should be getting this. But what they're going to do is they're going to point to your property, and your property is classed as commercial. So they'll just go like that. This is why it's so important to be able to decimate this jurisdictional argument. I feel it's very important because of where we put our property. I was talking to one lad who's in the process of moving his property out of one jurisdiction because he sold it to somebody else and now bought it back off someone else. Right. And now he wants to re-register it, but he wants to do it in the private. If he gets it done in the private, Rich, I think he would get treated differently. I think we all would. But with what you're doing, if you started putting this into a courtroom and you had other people doing this, you can now bring the bills of exchange lawyer in as an interpreter and can even bring up the joint gyros and show them that they used to always be attached. Why would they be attached then and not now? What's the difference? These are the questions we want to ask.
I don't think the gyro is important. I don't think the gyro is important at all. I think that and I kind of know it. Like any paper that gets sent from any private limited company to you asking for money, and it fulfills the terms in the Bills of Exchange Act, that's it. It's a bill of exchange, and I'm endorsing that and sending it back. So company says, oh, you owe this much money. Please pay by this date. And then it's signed. And you know, a company logo is also classed as a signature. So it's a sum certain in money from one person to another for a specific date or on demand. So if it's an on demand, you got to do it that day. This is what we're trying to do with the orders with the cars. But yeah, that's the that's the whole encampment of what a bill of exchange is. So it doesn't have to be a gyro. It doesn't have to look like a check or anything like that. It's just a sum certain in money from one person to another, and we know that a person underneath the what is it Act? Gone out of my head now. Interpretations Act. A person can mean a corporation, a sole proprietorship, a business, all this other stuff, from one person to another. So if it's got a company logo at the top, that's as good as a signature. And then it's to your ends legis. And all we're supposed to do with bills and any sort of demands for money that come through the post box is endorse them and send them back. And that's it. They're paid. Delivery is acceptance. So as soon as you've got that receipt saying it's been signed by them, that's it. It's accepted. And if you're writing without recourse, that without recourse means I don't care if it bounces. I don't care if you don't say it's a bill or anything like that. That's payment. Take it. See you later.
What's interesting here, mate, is from what I can see, you've cracked the logic. There's an inner logic to all these things. When you understand the principle, it doesn't matter what the form is. Most people stop at the form. So there's a form, and then it becomes a no entry sign. But what you've pushed past that, and I think humour's a part of it. Because if you know you've got the answers, they're going to know you're too slippery and too hard to handle at that level. I mean, I think the thing's going to be, if this took off and more people started doing it, that's when Paul's concerns are going to become quite pressing. Like, if one or two people are doing it, they've always got room in the system for that. The key point is going to be when it gets traction and at what point. It's like, you know, electric vehicles. No road tax as an incentive. As soon as there's too many electric vehicles, suddenly there's road tax from this April. So there's always a critical point where the loan operator doing it, you know, well, ultimately they'll not allow that to continue. But what's most interesting about this is the experimental side of what you're learning, the techniques. And I think for us, the takeaway is, like you said, I suspected there's got to be a humour part to it as well, light-hearted, fun, not too serious, even though the issues are very serious. And you've got to be confident in your stuff. And then when you're playful about it, I think they don't know what to do with it. They just don't know what to do with it because they're geared up. They're geared up all the time, aren't they, to the standard thing that they can rebut.
And to be aggressive and assertive and tell us what's what. When I'm sending them my coat of arms, it's pink and purple. It's got 2 unicorns on, and Jesus on the cross. And when they look at that, they're going to be like, "What on earth's this?" And I use a wax seal stamp. I've got the same thing, and then I drop the wax on the back of the letter and stamp the letter. So I bet they're thinking like, what on earth is this guy going on about?
They'd have to come for you, wouldn't they? They'd have to come for you and try and prosecute you. In which case, you'd be able to defend yourself in court, and then bring all these points up so that the underlying logic and the law and the corruption would come to light.
I wouldn't take an invitation as soon as any one of these. As soon as any one of these say we've given you a court date, I'm going to endorse the court date and send that back. See what they say to that, and then if they come back again saying no, you've got to turn up, then I'll find out whichever company it is. I'll find the CFO, and then I'll take that company to court. But I won't go to normal. I'll go to Chancery Division. So I'll make charges of at least £10,000, and then I'll take them to Chancery Court because they understand bills of exchange.
So what you've done here, mate, is exactly what Paul has encouraged everybody to do for a long time, and nobody has done. That's been part of the lament, but now you have done. So in a way, mate, you're like Scott of the Antarctic now. You're a pioneer.
You might find a guest we've got coming on interesting because he works a lot with the utility companies, and he works a little bit differently to what we're talking about. But it'll be interesting for what he's pitching. It'll be interesting to understand it. He's not ready to come on yet. He's only just launched, but he comes from a different perspective to me. But I think these two can marry. I think we can grind it down a lot. Again, we need more people doing it, Rich.
Mate. There is. There's
I've seen it. I'm getting a lot of messages saying that there's a lot of people trying different things. It's encouraging. After 10 years ago, mate, I was on my own, lad. You know, the thing is, I always had that gyro. I didn't need to do any of what you're talking about. Sign a date, giving them back. That was it. And I stood there and went to court with them. They never turned up, and the rest is history. Yeah. But when you're fighting on so many fronts and you're on your own, it takes a lot out of you, lad. I wish you'd have been around 10 years ago, Rich.
Yeah, well, I didn't have this information 10 years ago. I was watching your information and Ceylon's and everyone else's that were putting information out. But yeah, it basically since Brandon's appeared, over here, we've been asking for years and years for mortgage documents and completed mortgage documents and all this stuff, and they don't give it, do they? But guess what? In America, they're starting to get them. And the way that you write on the bill is the way that the banks do it. So if they can't say no to a bank, they can't say no to us because we're doing exactly the same as what the banks are doing.
Yeah. But processes take
That,
time to
that,
be
that was
through.
what Alex. That's what Alex was touching about. Was when we get to that point, the jurisdictional issue. If I can, if it push comes to shove, I should be able to walk into a courtroom, do exactly what you've done. When they say we don't accept that, bring a bills of exchange interpreter in and tell them what we're doing. But we can't do that as defendants. We've got to do it as claimants. That's the
Exactly.
only way it will work. It's the only way
Exactly.
it'll
That's
work.
why as soon as I get an invitation through, I'll try endorsing it and sending them back. And then if they're like, no, 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 you've really got to come in, then I'll whichever company, whichever one wants to start, then I'm going to be taking the CFO of that company, because that's all I write to. I don't write to any of the other little people. If they want to trip themselves up and be a little peon and get themselves involved, then that's their own mistake.
Mate,
Because
when I rang British Gas in Staines, Middlesex, Centrica, I asked to be put through to the legal department and somebody legally trained. They
yeah,
wouldn't put me through. But do you know
yeah.
what? They knew who I was. I'd never rang them before, but they knew who I was.
Yeah, well, there
No,
you go.
it's
Crack the
like the
code there.
CFOs. Yeah, it's like the CFOs are like invisible or something, and ghosts, but they're not. They're human beings, and they need to be responsible. And each one of the CFOs within these big corporations and councils or whatever, wherever they are, they have the ability to accept. It says it on 90% of private limited companies, articles of association on Companies House. It says to draw, make, accept. Bills of exchange, promissory notes, bills of lading, and all the other stuff that it says on there. So they can't deny it. And then if they don't have that on their articles of association, it falls into the bracket of the Companies Act 2006, Section 52, where it basically says the same again. To draw, make, and accept, the same sort of terminology to be able to use bills of exchange and promissory notes. So they can't run away from it. They can't say no, we don't. And with dishonour as well, they have to do it properly. They have to do it correctly. They can't just be like refuse it and or just say, oh no, sorry, we don't accept bills. That's literally what it said on my water bill. It said bills of exchange are not something that we accept or something like that.
No, British Gas told me that everybody knew about these debt avoidance techniques I'd gleaned from the internet.
No, I reckon I was probably the first person in the UK to use this type of endorsement and to be sending it out to the people that I've sent it out to, or the corporations that I've sent them out to. I pretty much reckon I was the first one that's done it, because I don't know anyone else. I've been looking at this stuff for probably like 8, 9, 10 years, something like that, and I haven't seen that type of endorsement until I started looking at Brandon's stuff, and it just magically appeared on my phone with Brandon doing all this, and then on his website, it's got all the banks, Wells Fargo, and everyone doing this type of endorsement. So,
No
yeah,
such thing as coincidence.
sorry.
There's no such thing as coincidence. It didn't just come up on your timeline, mate.
No,
It's
no, I know,
coincidence.
mate.
But
I've had that many. Sorry.
no, sorry for interrupting. I'm just saying, do you feel you're in a position to maybe do a 15, 20-minute video to explain to people how they could do it?
I've done a 6-minute one and I put it on my YouTube channel. I should probably do another one and show them what to put for like cover letter. But the cover letters, it don't have to be long and complicated. You haven't got to do the work for them. Yeah, they have legal departments. They pay people thousands of pounds a year to stay in their legal departments. So why do the work for them? So all I put with an attachment to these endorsements that I'm sending back is deliveries acceptance. This bill is transferable, and then I'm writing in blue ink, all inalienable rights reserved, by, and then signature, autograph, and then Richard-Sally-Dean, agents. Pretty much the same as what you do the endorsement. And then, yeah, put a paper clip on and send it to the CFO. Make sure you got it either special delivery. I think special delivery adds a bit more weight. I don't know why. But yeah, as long as you're getting it signed for and you've got proof and it's signed for on the other end, delivery is acceptance. And they don't know how to dishonour bills correctly. So I'm not going to give them the information to be able to do that. Someone messaged me earlier today and they drafted up a dishonour, like an options, like 3 options for them to dishonour the note. And I was like, why are you going to give them that information? Why are you giving them the passwords? We've stumbled onto this information. Why are you just then going to go, oh, this is how you have to dishonour it correctly? Just leave them. Just leave them. They've got legal people that get paid thousands of pounds to work this stuff out. Let them do it. Let them work it out. And if they can't work it out, then they're in dishonour, and then we automatically win, and then we can come for damages as well.
Right. So I want to make this point here because I think it's vital so that people don't understand. Like, what's happened in the system is intelligence has been commoditized. So, like, what's happened is through private schools and the public sector, intelligence got sequestered through the system of the Rockefellers and turned into a conformity game where you're competing about grades. And that turns intelligence into something like a pack of 6 sausages that you get from the supermarket. And then people go to the supermarket, they get the pack of 6 sausages, and intelligence just becomes functional rather than adaptive. If they had to deal with people who hadn't been so thoroughly conditioned, who were able to adapt to new conditions and new situations, but we've all been templated. So it's like you got a set of instructions in a manual. Oh, well, when you come to this sign, turn left. When you come to that sign, turn right. People are doing it. And definitions of intelligence have been developed within that system that's not truly intelligent, because intelligence is adaptive. Once you develop adaptive intelligence, the system can't cope with you. That's the takeaway here. So everybody who wants a video, I understand why they do. But if they think that just by watching a 6-minute video, because they've not been through the process that you've been through, Rich, so they're going to have to, at some point in their own unique way, internalize the knowledge in that video, not by watching a video, but by doing it. This is what Paul's been saying from the beginning.
Yeah, and everyone that comes into that Telegram group, they think it's like a hot ticket and a cheat code and a password, and they can just come in and just copy what I've done, and then it'll work for them. No,
And
not a chance. You've got to put the hours in. You've got to do the course, is what I say to them. Said, do the course, then do the post course, and listen to all this material. Then you know what I know then. And then I ain't got to tell you stuff. I can give you an odd little pointer about things that I did, but I ain't got to be like, oh, now you do this, and now you do that, and here's a spoon. I ain't got to be like that.
You sound like Paul now, Rich. He's been on this one for quite some time. There you go.
I was just going to say, Rich, how many people have offered you money to do it for them?
Probably about 4 or 5, I think, something like that. One guy, he was willing to do it himself, and then he had to go doing it himself, and then he wanted to just give me a donation. I says, mate, I don't need your money. I don't need your money. I need everyone to start cracking on with this information and coming up with ideas and putting ideas in the group instead of trying to suck everything out of the group. Be putting things into the group with ideas and other ways to do stuff. Because there's that many points. I've split it down. There must be like 15 different little chat headers. You know, in Telegram you can have like the main chat, and then I've got a general and council tax, utilities, and keeps going down like that. There's that many different things, and I just want like a couple of people just to focus on one thing and then try and perfect that thing, because I can't do all of these myself all at the same time. But some of the stuff. I think I'm at a point now where I can just do it all verbally, because Brandon says you ain't got to fill in all these naturalization stuff and do all that process. You can naturalize to wherever you want, whenever you say. Do you know what I mean? I live in the kingdom of Beartopia, so I don't really care. They can try and come at me and be like, "Are you a citizen of United Kingdom?" Like, no, because that's a corporation. Only dead entities can be working for a United Kingdom corporation. I am the man and I live in Beertopia. That's where I domicile. And trust can also be given verbally. So, yeah,
Yeah, you've brought through. You've brought through to the spirit of it, Rich. So
That's the
most people,
jurisdiction.
most people take the form, like we said before about people. Kids are trained to be parrots at school. Copy this, copy that, do this, which basically means conform. Don't use critical intelligence. Once you've mastered it and you understand the principle, rather than parroting it, this is what Paul talks about. I'm free man. You're saying all those things that Paul on another day might criticize in somebody who didn't understand it, but you do understand it, which means it becomes meaningful because you've tapped into the spirit of what it really means. Therefore, your confidence is in what that freedom of that really gives you. In other words, you've entered into the spirit of it, not just the letter of it.
I think the point that I was making was people 10 years, 11 years ago, longer, no, 10 years ago, were standing in a commercial court and saying to a judge that I'm a man. And he would look across at the utility company and say, he says he's a man, and they say, we'd agree. And then he'd look at him again and say, I have no contract. And he'd look at the utility company again and say, he says he has no contract. And they'd go, we agree, we don't have a contract with him. And the judge looked back at him and went, how are you going to pay this then? And because he thought that's all he had to do, and you know, I had, one fella put a birth certificate on the desk, and every time they mentioned his name, he just tapped it. So he just went, is Mr. Smith here today? And he tapped the birth certificate. No, nobody here for Mr. Smith. Then we'll carry on without him and find him. And it was like, what are you doing? You've set everybody back by putting this stumbling block in front of everyone. That was why, because it was so simple to me, Rich. If you send me a check for 100 quid, and as soon as you put it in my hands, you say, you owe me 100 quid, I'm just going to give you your check back. You're doing the same by endorsement with their bills. You just give it them the back once they give it to you. You owe us this money. Well, there you go.
Well, the way that I'm doing it as well, though, Paul, is paying it to me, paying it to my business. They're creating these bills and saying, you owe this. And I'm going, all right, I owe this, do I? So, okay, pay it to me. And there you go. It's also negotiable. Now what are you going to do? You've got to pay me and yourself.
Did you ever, I don't know if it was you who brought it up about the companies are actually extending credit to people to pay bills. They're actually accepting the credit and asking you, do you want to pay them? It's almost like the brokering on behalf. Instead of acting as agent, the brokering. That's why it's going to be interesting with the lad that's coming on, because he's a broker. And it's going to be interesting what he's going to be saying now, because what you're saying is relatable. So it's going to be interesting when he comes on.
What's his name, sorry?
I'd rather not say at the minute, because he's only just launching his business. So I'll leave it with him. He wants to announce it when he wants to announce it.
But he's just done it. He's just done it in chat.
Has he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he has. Well, as a B, if you want to put that in the chat room, I'll put it up there for you, pal. But I think it'll be interesting because of it doesn't. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not as. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. It's not as rough as going up against what I was doing. My remedy was, I've got a check, I don't have to do all this. Now the check's not there, we obviously have to try something else. I mean, we can always get to the point where I go, well, where's my joint gyro credit? What you should be issuing me with. This would make it so much simpler. So I think all of this actually comes together. This is what I wanted 10 years ago, Aaron, was for other people to bring all this to the table, but people just weren't interested because everybody could afford things. But what I got in 2022 when everything went up, and obviously Convid bloody locked everybody up and they had nothing to do. But when they realised bills were going up, that's when I got the messages saying, what magic button do I press? What magic button do I press? Make it all go away with it. No, it's not a magic button. You've got to understand what you're talking about. I didn't have to go into the depths of anything else. I had a check. It should have been done dusted. But when I saw what they did, Aaron, to do it with a remedy, to say Mr. Webster's got a remedy in a courtroom, I thought, oh, if I hadn't been so swamped, mate, I would have took that on. I would have took that to the High Court. I would have sorted that. But it's just so much, and when you even though I did have a 2 or 3 very close friends, very knowledgeable friends who helped me with it, you were still stood in a courtroom on your own. You didn't have people supporting you. I always say that I lost more friends and family telling them the gas were free than when I said I'm a born-again Christian. They lost their minds when you said you shouldn't be paying bills. And it's about the jurisdictional thing. We've been taught everything so wrong, and the education system teaches our history, teaches our geography, teaches our everything. So unless you can actually think for yourself, mate, you're just going to be a cog in the work.
Yeah. To quote the
Aaron's saying he doesn't mind. I won't go into the full hit of what he's doing, but he's going to be able to hold these utility companies accountable by their own standards. You know, it was also brought to me about, which I didn't know about, meters. When meters are given serial numbers, there's a number for them for if it's wholly domestic, small commercial, or large commercial. That's even interesting. What meter have you got for me? No, this is what I'm saying. I think you might find this interesting.
I've got my own in light, but I didn't know that.
I didn't, but he's been doing this for 20 years, so he was educating me on a few things.
Well, there you go, Paul. Right. The thing about that is, like to quote the Smiths, like I was saying before, these things take time. That's the bottom line. So if Aaron's been doing that for decades, learning his craft from the inside, and obviously Rich has been finding his own unique method. When it's not going well and you think you're preaching to the deaf, it is soul destroying. But I think you should take credit and for persevering. I know sometimes it's fashionable for people to make out that you've been a broken record about it, but the bottom line is sometimes you have to be. And you can get a bit desperate about it because you think no one's listening. Why is no one listening? But in the end, you find that people have been listening, but it's only going to be a small number of people who are going to be the pioneers doing it. And then that trickle eventually will become a stream and eventually will become a river. It just takes time. There's no way around it with human beings, mate.
Have you heard of that Landlord's game?
No. What's that about?
No, the Landlord's game. So, before the game of Monopoly was created, a woman made a game called the Landlord's game, right?
Yeah.
And there was 2 options. You could either play Monopoly, that we play nowadays, or you could play Prosperity, which is what we should be playing. We're all playing the game of Monopoly, and we should be playing Prosperity.
Yeah, totally. Great metaphor. Really good way of putting it. That's what Jesus said. I've come that they might have life and have it more abundantly.
There we go.
Amen to that. Speaking of that, now you brought it up, I'm just seeing an article that school has cancelled an Easter service. No more Easter, mate. No more bunny rabbits. No more fish. What's going on? I'm quite happy with that. I don't do Ishtar anyway, so. But it's very interesting, isn't it, that you see a school in Eastleigh in this country. I wonder why Easter is being cancelled though. Is it because it's a multi-faith school now and that'll upset people? Because it only ever seems to be, and I use the term loosely, Christianity that seems to actually upset people these days, Alex.
Yeah, well, God often uses corrupted systems to judge corrupted systems. So there's a beautiful irony in that.
Well, I've not had me Islam pack through yet, but apparently quite a few in my town have had Islamic packs pushed through. I had the Jehovah's pack pushed through yesterday, so there's definitely a demand for people. I mean, they knocked on my door. They must get used to people ignoring them because I didn't even get up before I heard my gate go and they'd gone again.
You know, it's on the buses. What you'd had told me on Thursday, trusting Allah on the side of the buses now. So the propaganda campaign to undermine the Christian foundations of this country fully is well underway now. Subliminal advertising, you know, on buses everywhere. So
Do you not
know,
feel it's? Do you not feel it's a pitch against people? It's trying to pit people against people and trying to use their faith to do that, or
That,
it's their colour to do that, or it's their jobs to do that.
that's why
I don't, because I think, regardless of what you think about migration, that's a different question than the history of this country as being a Christian country. So as soon as it's allowed to be openly paraded, I mean, Christians can't pray in public now silently because they can be imprisoned as a hate crime, but you can put trust in Allah on the side of a bus that's driving through the streets. Presumably this is a welcome message, but this has always been a Christian country from at least since when they displaced the pagans. You're talking about 1700 years now, or not, no, probably 1500 years.
I'm stuttering though with the Christian thing, Alex. You know, people say, "Well, look at what the Templars did. That wasn't Christianity." You know, I'm really struggling. We need to redefine this term Christianity because
this is why I remain neutral to all of it. If there's any religion, I'm omnism, because I can see all religions. They all have a point, and they all point to the same thing, and that's what I call source. So all of these religions, they're all saying this is source, that is source, this is source. That I'm saying, yeah, you're all right at the same time, and I'm also saying you're all wrong at the same time. Um,
what
I'm,
I
I'm not,
found,
I'm
how
not,
I
I'm not.
found it, Aaron, how I found it was when I'd never read the Bible up until 8 years ago. When I read the Bible, it contradicts every religion. 700 religions that say the Christianity, they say the Christian. It contradicts them all. It contradicts Catholicism, C of E, Jehovah's,
Which one
Mormons,
did you ring?
Islam.
King James one.
Yeah, it
Okay.
contradicts everyone. And
How
what
many
they
books
do
are in
is
that Bible?
all the religions then say that the Bible's wrong because there isn't only one way. The Pope says
I,
there isn't only one way to the Father now.
there's stuff in the Bible that was changed, and we know this. Um, there's I think it's 66 books in the Bible. Why throw numbers like that into a Bible that we're supposed to be following? I just think there's too much dogma, and I don't think God ever wrote a book. God could never write a book because he's all within us, and we're all our own little fragment of that thing. So yeah, God did create us, yeah, but he didn't write a book. No way did he write a book. Only man wrote a book. Only man can go and scribe something down, and that is a form of creation.
Well,
That is a
that's the
form of
point. That's the
creation.
point. The Bible, the Scriptures, go against everything that's worldly. It doesn't promote man in any way whatsoever. It tells us what we are. It tells us what we are. Once I was convicted of what that Bible said, Rich, it was totally different. I've never been
Yeah,
religious, never had a dogma given to me whatsoever. I was doing mediumship 20 years ago. I was good at it. When I read the Bible and it convicted me and it speaks to me every day that I read it, I know that that's divinely written and I know it hasn't been changed because I use the lexicon to go back to the Septuagint and through the Septuagint to the Hebrew. So I know the King James Version is a pretty damn good English translation of the Hebrew. And when you read it, it goes against every religion that you can name. It tells you that you shouldn't do the things that these religions are doing. And then they all turn round, and don't forget, the Vatican owns all our souls through this birth certificate stuff. They all point at the Bible and say, that's wrong. Jesus is not the only way. My Bible says Jesus is the only way, and everybody attacks it. Jesus can be portrayed as a gay man bringing his boyfriend home to meet Mary on Netflix. Muhammad won't get portrayed like that. Buddha won't get portrayed like that. Krishna doesn't get portrayed like that.
And for me, I think that's just another pitfall and another trap. As long as I stay as an observer of all these religions and thoughts, theologies, as long as I stay separate from that, then that in a way is my own version of a religion, I suppose. But I know that I'm connected to source. 100%, I am connected to source. I have way too many synchronicities. I witnessed too many deja vus and things just happen in my life that is just like I'm not writing this stuff out. It's like I'm just floating around and just going with it, and it all just seems to be slotting and falling into place. So I know 100% I'm connected to whatever it is that made us all and made this realm for us to come up with all these ideas. I'm not like Godhead. So they're called the Abrahamic religions, aren't they? So this is more of a recent. So A in Sanskrit means the opposite of, or the inverse of. So Abrahamic and Brahma is the agathon and the Godhead. So all the Abrahamic religions are Antichrist or satanic religions. They are the opposite of the Brahma. In the Bible it says, if thine eye be single, thy whole body will be full of light. It says, what else does it say?
Are you a Christ consciousness guy, then, Rick?
Sorry?
Are you a Christ consciousness guy?
In a way, yeah. But I don't like how things get. Everything needs to be stamped and sealed and put in a box, and it all has to be labelled. And you're this or you're that. You're left wing or right wing. No, I'm not. I'm not any of them. I'm just me in the middle, observing it all, taking it all in, and then doing as I see fit. I see all the verses and stuff in the Bible, and I see how it all points to like what we should be doing and practicing. And then I look at other parts of other religions and be like, well, isn't that what they're doing? But yeah, no, I try and remain.
There's a big difference though in the Bible, Rich. Massive difference compared to every religion. There's no way to God other than believing that Jesus is who he said he was and what he did. If you don't believe that, you don't have God. That's according to the Bible. So if you pick out what scriptures you like, then you can't do that. You can't, if you're a Muslim, you can't pick out certain things that you like. If the Quran says something in it, you've got to follow that. But I know really good people that say, well, no, that's a cultural thing and this, that, and the other. You're doing the same thing looking at the scriptures. Well, that's a cultural thing. The Old Testament, the Abrahamic law, what you were talking about, the Old Testament is the promise. Well, what was the promise for? It was for the fall, the curse of the land, the curse of flesh. We decided we wanted to know good and evil. Now women will give birth in pain because you've got to know what this is. You want to know the evil. The problem that we've got is we've got a really big propensity to do evil. Until the law came, until those 10 commandments came, nobody knew anybody was doing anything wrong. There was no such thing as sin. So if you fancied having a bit of sex with an Alsatian while your mate's making a brew, that was okay because you didn't know it was different. But then the law came, but the people couldn't understand the law. So they had to be bludgeoned virtually into it. If you want to stay separate, this is why it's so important that you don't do this, you don't do that. When Jesus came, he fulfilled all that. So you don't live by you have the law written here. You obviously know good from bad, Rich. You're a good you're a good bloke. You know the decency. So you don't need to be taught that. And I only believe that that came from after the cross, because before the cross, we all hear in the scripture about hearts being hardened and this, that, and the other. But when we come into the New Testament, it's the fulfilling of the Old. And the New Testament scriptures point back, and the Old Testament point forward. So this book, and it is 66 books, but we only have the 66 because people sat there and said, well, these are canon, but these books are still relative and they're good cultural and historical issues, but they're not canon. So we can debate about whether they're canon or not. It's immaterial to me. If a bloke says, don't read that, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to go and read it. So when I read Enoch, when I read Jasher, when I read Jubilees, it coloured everything in, because it's not just this basic stuff from Genesis, which is a blue, it's like a schematic diagram. All this other stuff fleshes it out and colours it in. And it's totally different to every religion. And I was inducted into Taoism. I was doing mediumship. I've sat through 15 years of left footer and right footer services. And the only difference between the left footer and right footers, Rich, was one was 10 minutes, because the left footers had a little biscuit and a bit of wine. Same sermon, same hymn.
Cannibalism, really.
So for me, Rich, I would never have been interested in religion. But 2017, when I was brought to my knees and I didn't want to be here anymore, I just went, so what's the point? And then I heard a voice. I did mediumship, never heard voices before. And this voice said, it is done. And I woke up and I went, that was Jesus. And I shot up out of bed and going, what? If you see my living room, Rich, I was making up 3 bundles for court. One for them, one for me, one for the court. There was no religion, nothing. I couldn't have been further away from it. And I couldn't stop thinking about that. And as soon as I opened the Bible, it spoke to me. So I get what you're saying. You're on your path. You're on your journey. I can't deter you or convince you of anything like that. I wouldn't even try. But I just knew myself how much it changed my heart. I was doing stuff that I loved doing, Rich, and I was getting away with. And then all of a sudden I knew I shouldn't do it. And I didn't know why I shouldn't do it. So I read more and I got an understanding. So it totally changed my life. But I get you, because I know loads of people who's have got these synchronicities. I had them, things happen and things go really well. So you're connected to something, because we all are. Yeah. It's just, what if there's a certain specificity of this journey? Well, I'm that autistic with it, Rich. I've got to find it. A bloke telling me it's this is not good enough for me. If back in the day, if you'd have told me, hey, if you do these drugs, it does this, don't do them, I'm going to go, So, it's interesting to speak to everybody about this walk, because we're all on this journey. We're all going to a place. As far as I'm concerned, there's one of two.
But we should add some. We should add something in, I think, because the one thing I find is it's clear you cannot have a true religion that's based on experience alone. You just can't, because what that means is everyone just makes up their own religion. That doesn't mean that you can't have a spiritual take on life, lead an ethical and responsible life, and even have a chance at the end if you've had integrity. So we're not ruling out, but you can't have an experience as the basis, or a set of experiences, because that's what I said before about why the world's got into the problems that it has, because people hear a report from mainstream media, they experience that report. They don't test the sources. They don't critically analyze. They don't seek truth. They listen. They experience the report, and they've got nothing to contrast it with, so they accept it. And even powerful experiences can be like a drug. So at the end of the day, you've got to have more. And John Wesley was Methodist, basically, ended up being a Methodist, left the Anglican Church. He talked about a quadrilateral: scripture, tradition, reason, and experience. You got to use reason. You got to analyze your experience. You got to use critical intelligence. Otherwise, you'll end up like all these lentils that believe everything they're told. So reason is fundamental to a functioning human being, and use critical intelligence, presumably, which God gave you. Scripture, there has to be an objective truth. Now, people say the Bible's been changed so many times. Well, if they want to believe that, that's fine. And it's a translation. That's fine. But there are core level truths that you can still respond to and think, does this Jesus guy talking to me, does this story that I'm reading, does it add up? And then somebody goes, it's been changed. So what? So what if you think it's been changed? Is that word speaking to you a definitive truth that's not just an experience? It is an experience, but it's more than an experience. Those books have been in place for well over 1,000 years. Then there's tradition, a tradition of interpretation, not just one person, not me picking it up and going, well, I read that, I think it means this, because I'm experiencing it like this. The whole church has interpreted it for centuries. And then you've got to have experience as well. So he said scripture, tradition, reason, and experience. When you pray, when you connect with God, you would expect to have an experience. So there are certain things that you can expect to see in life coming back to you based on your praying, like God answering your prayers. So there's an element of experience, but if it's just an experience, you've got to start talking about source energy. You've got to turn God into an abstract force. He's got to be an entity out there somewhere you can't know. And that's the whole point of the Christian message, that God, the abstract entity that was so noble that if you saw him, it'd blow your mind and you'd die, contracts himself to a human span and lives among us, but not like we did, without sin. And that's why he was able to offer and bridge the gap between that which we can't understand through experience and actual ultimate reality. He bridges the gap. No other religion offers that, not one.
That's a really interesting conversation, that, from bills of exchange. Don't know how we manage it sometimes. Aaron, I'm talking to Aaron and thinking. Rich, are you able to share your screen, your videos off your phone, or can you not? Because I could actually play your 6-minute video if you.
I can just send it you.
Yeah, do that, mate. Because I'll post it. Are you still there, Rich? You froze. Is anybody else still there?
Yeah.
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 Rich has froze.
Just messaged it you.
Oh right, you're back now. Have you sent it on? FB.
Messenger. Yeah.
Are you going to play it now, Paul?
If I can.
Play it on screen, yeah.
Is your broker guy coming on? I don't want to take up too much time.
He's not coming on tonight. He's in the chat room.
All right.
No, he's in the chat room. He's on tonight. And the guest that Taylor was coming, he's engaged in something else. Just 1 second. Let me see if I can get this. Chat amongst yourselves, lads.
Well, it's certainly been eventful and interesting. I think what Rich has done, it's great because it's building on foundations that you've been plugging away for years, Paul. And what Rich is doing is a take on what you said. So it's different. And I think that this is the key. Lots of people having individuated approaches. It's far better when these processes really germinate in intelligent people who are prepared to take a risk. I just can't get past it. It's an example of adaptive intelligence, not the sausage machine. Copy this, copy this, copy this, pass it on like a relay race, pass the baton on. It doesn't work like that. It's got to become a part of you. It's got to become you. That's what the whole thing about being a man is, and being in sovereignty. That it means you're not like the man stood next to you. You're a unique man, and he's just as valid as you are, but he's different. He's not the same. He's not been cut from the same cloth, and he's not come through the sausage mincer.
Yeah. Well, I keep telling people in the group, they can do whatever they want as long as they know how to stand on it. I keep saying, like, if you know how to stand on whatever you're doing, then you'll be all right. People
Yeah,
sending
exactly.
these we rechecks or whatever it is, that Peter of England sending them we rechecks.
Do you know what
Yeah.
might be a good idea? Do you know what me a really good idea to develop this idea rather than having something static like a 6 or an 8 minute video, which again it turns it into a product that other people imbibe, and then you go, oh, it's the product that Rich produced. I must replicate it. It'd be much better to have an ongoing live discussion forums where people just chuck their ideas into the middle and you could say, yeah, that sounds like a plan. I've not thought about that before. Because then you get all the different intelligences coming together and running ideas past each other in an interactive forum. So you're all adding to each other.
That's what I'm trying to do in the Telegram. And
Yeah.
I keep telling people off, like, they keep coming at me stuff and asking questions. And I'm like, have you done the course? The answer's literally in the course. So you're asking questions that have already been answered and have probably already been answered further up in the chat. I keep saying I don't want people to come here and just get spoon fed. I want them to think about stuff and come and add stuff rather than try and be like a vampire and suck all the energy out of the place.
Bloody hell, you do sound like me, mate. Let's see if your video plays. Let's see if your video plays.
Right, just thought I'd do this, seeing as everyone keeps asking. Then you've got the video and you can pass it around and do what you want. So council tax bills just come through. Obviously I've covered all my personal information and account number and all that stuff, so people don't try and do anything with this account. So yeah, apparently I'd had a credit, 139.69. But yeah, the one for the next year, 2025 to 26, 1,017.31. So what I do to pay this, you can all see it's the council tax bill. A bill is a bill of exchange. It says a guide to your council tax bill. There's a date of bill. So yeah, it pretty much fulfills all the criteria, some certain money from one person to another, and then they give you the time, the date of which it's due by. It starts to be paid cash monthly in all capitals. I don't really know what that bit's on about, but okay. And then on the back, I'm saying again, you put your account number so many times. On the back, there's a barcode on the back. So for me, that says that this bit that's not in the box, see everything in boxes, if you know the four corner rule, if you don't, just go and have a look at the four corner rule. But this isn't in a box, it's just out in the open. And that's a bit with a barcode on. I've covered part of the barcode and the numbers. But yeah, so that says to me that an endorsement should be made on the back. So that area there, very small, really, says to me that I should be endorsing on the other side of that and not through this barcode. So that's how they scan things through and do all the tapping that they do on the computer. So yeah, flip it back over. There it is. So what I'd be saying then, it's going to be through all this writing, fill that area and put all this information about, yeah, whatever. So what I'd do to practice, I'd get another piece of paper next to this and just mark out the sort of width that you've got to endorse it in, and then practice a couple of times doing the endorsement on a separate piece of paper. And then once you're happy with it and you think you can fit it into this area, it doesn't have to be perfectly in this area, I don't believe. But yeah, then when you're happy with it, flip it over and do the endorsement. I do it in blue pen. I do it 45-degree angle. Not 100% sure why. I always got taught that 45-degree angle when you're endorsing, you draw your sword from the side, and the endorsement would go at 45 degree. You do it straight if you want to do it. I did look at something about doing it at an angle. I can't remember where I looked at that now. But yeah, that's the way I do it. That's the way I do it. But yeah, I'll do the endorsement now, and I'll bring it back. And there we go. Now, a bit hard to read because they put all their writing there. Should have probably moved it
Send
across
your
a bit more
Facebook
this way.
messages,
So it's a
mate.
bit, I can still read that. I still know what that says. And I've written it there. That was my practice. And there it is on that side. So, without recourse, pay to the order of, colon, all caps name Richard Ashmore, white, colon, photograph, Richard Samuel Dean, colon, Ashmore, agent. And then I attach a letter to that saying delivery's acceptance. This bill is transferable. It still gives them the option to get monetary value out of it. And then I use a paper clip to attach it. And then I write in blue pen again. I do that horizontally on the along your the attachment that I put on. I do that. I normally write it and I put all inalienable rights reserved, autographic, first, middle, last, colon, first, middle, colon, last, agent, and then I date it. And then I send it special delivery through the post for the attention of whoever the CFO is of the council. And yeah, special delivery. It costs a bit more, but I know that it's going to get there the next day. But yeah, that's how I pay my council tax bill. I am not a legal expert. Do whatever you want. I'm doing this. Good luck. Have fun. Ta-ra.
Sounds a bit morbid, doesn't it, really?
It sounds real, mate. That's the problem. People want these remedies. I mean, when I was on Vobes' show, he said, "Oh, you're painting a bleak picture."
Same with when Dave Witcher went on. When Dave Witcher went on, he was like all sad and like, oh well, I tried this and that happened and this and that happened. He's taken the second spring now though, and he's going to make this this private members association or something. So
Yeah.
he's trying to do something now. So yeah, it's again a collective of people, and they're all sharing stuff what they're doing. So. Yeah, it all seems to be coming together. Everyone's got their own little shoot, and we're all trying stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with banks as well. The bailiffs and everything are active. They've done some really stupid things. The police have been aiding them as well. The groups that I've been involved in, I think there's going to be a lot kicking off this year. It just depends on how we go about it. We certainly don't want what they want, which is civil unrest. They really want us fighting against them.
Yeah. Civil unrest. It's been advertised and it's been paid for. George Soros, doesn't he? He pays for people to go out on these protests and stuff. He gives they've got a contract to go out and be a provocateur or whatever. It's all cinema. It's all theatre. Anything on the telly is theatre, and I've proven that time and time again through the date durations, the gematria and the numerology of things that occur and happen. Also on my Yeah, I'll give you my Pope decode, but if I can't go off at the thing, can I?
I think he's froze.
I've just sent you him again. I was trying to basically predict when the Pope's going to die because he went in hospital, didn't he? But
Oh
it
yeah,
just
you were saying about the gematria.
yeah. It's down with date durations as well. All the stuff that has been happening, it's locked into certain date durations, and it's like easy stuff as well, and skull and bones, things that people know about secret societies and stuff. And it's so simple, and it's just like, well, on what was it, the 21st of March, so 321. It was I think it was 2 years, 2 months, and 3 days after the 2 years, 2 months, and 3 days after the previous pope had died, which is 322 backwards, and then we're going into 322 the next day. Oh my god, it's just like it's all laid out in front, and the links and stuff that I get with it as well. It's some of it's related to Christianity, and I think it's like basically them mocking and ripping the Bible and being like, "Look at us,
Yeah.
we can do all this theatre, and we can do it scripted and coded, and none of you can work it out." But in my eyes, I'm working it out. I predicted the day that he was going to die, and he didn't die, but it was the first picture that was in the news on that day. And apparently, he's come out today on the Sunday. But the Pope's a Jesuit, so the Jesuit logo is the sun. So he's coming out on a Sunday when the Jesuit logo's a picture of the sun with 32 rays coming off it. And then it's also a 19 date date numerology. It's a 19 date numerology, and the 19th card in the tarot is the sun.
Yeah, it's all bloody ritual, mate. Anyway, lads, that's been a quick conversation tonight. We've done 2 hours already. Is there anything you want to say in closing? Obviously, you're always welcome to come back on again, Rich. Anything you want to say for encouragement to people?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the chance coming on. I'm always humbled. I learned quite a lot of stuff with you when I was younger, so yeah, hats off to you, mate. But yeah, I feel like I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. I learned all this stuff years ago for a reason, and I think it's all coming to light now. And I'm getting all these extra synchronicities and all this mad stuff happening in my life. It's all for a reason, and it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Sending these. I know it's sending letters off and being like, "Nah, that's not how it works. This is how it works." But yeah, I think I'm doing it all for a reason. If anyone wants to join in, the Telegram's open. Just do the course, and then you've got an idea of where my head's at, and the other people that have done the course. Because there's a bloke we've got. He's got I think like 8 cars now that he's sent order forms off with. Because when you ask for a new car, they can print you off a order for the new car, and the people in the vendors in the car forecourts have been signing and dating them. So it's an order to pay. There's a some certain money. It's by a specific date. It fulfills what a bill of exchange is, and all these corporations all have to draw, make, accept on the company's house. So how can they wriggle out of it? You see, the way I want to do it, I want to be a proper boyo about it. I want to go to a car forecourt and look at one that's on the forecourt, so I can see exactly which car it is that I'm going after, and then I'll just get to the end of it, do all the endorsement and everything, order for the car, whatever, fill it all in, send it all off, and then if they want to start being dicks about it and they won't send me any keys or anything, I'll just do common law lien, and I'll go and walk down to the place, and I'll put a boot on the car, and I'll say, "Give me the keys, otherwise I'm not taking it off, and it's staying here." It can't be sold. It's already sold.
Make sure somebody films that.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. I want a couple of people to come with me to film it, and if I want them to
That'd be
ring the
good.
police, I want them to ring the police, and I want the police to turn up and be like, "Why have you put this clamp on this car?" I'll be like, "Well, because it's mine. I've used a legal way to pay. It's all recorded and documented. They're in dishonour by not releasing it to me. So now I've got a common law lien on this car. They either give me the keys or they give me the value of the car." And then I'll be like, "I'm not budging. And this hasn't got anything to do with you, Mr. Policeman, I'm afraid. I know I'm on their land, but trespass is fine as long as you've got a lawful reason to be there. I've got a lawful reason to be there. It's a commercial premises as well. So it's a civil dispute, isn't it?" And
You can do
the
it in
guys in the
business.
court aren't going to have a clue. The police are going to be in the middle, like, "Well, we don't want any fighting or anything like that." I was like, "I'm not going to fight anyone. I'm just proving a point that that's mine. They need to give me the keys, and I'll be off."
Yeah, nice one, mate. So, like I said, Rich, you're always welcome back, mate.
Thank you. Cheers, Paul.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for all your information, and thanks for your work, brother.
Yeah. No worries. Have a good
Take
night.
care.
Ta-ra.
Yes, mate. Bye-bye. Taylor,
Yeah.
you've been sat there patiently and very quiet. What are you going to give us?
Well,
In a nutshell, mate. In a nutshell.
in a nutshell,
Yeah.
well, it's all pretty interesting, and things are always looking up, and it's just a matter of waiting until well, not even waiting, but just letting the normies see exactly what's going on, and that's when you have the big commotion that happens.
Is that this year?
Oh yeah, definitely this year, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I wouldn't surprise me if it was within the next few weeks to a month. It wouldn't surprise me, though. Don't quote me on that, though.
Well, it is the new year, the true new year, so we'll have a look into that. Do me a favour if you speak with Ron this week, ask him to, or if you've got his email, ping me over his email, and when you speak to him, just say, it's an open conversation. It's not an interview. Does he understand that? It's a conversation.
Okay. Do you want me to give you his email or his number, or what do you want me to get? What exactly do you want me to give you?
Just give us his email and let me know. I'll tell you what. Give him my email and ask him to message me and let me know what he wants to talk about, so that we're not going through different channels. And then we'll sort out a date. Because it would have been awkward for you to just drag him on. I'd rather us know when there's a date for somebody like Ron, so I can promote some of his stuff and advertise it, if you get me what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay,
All right,
mate.
yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, I'll speak to you through the week, Taylor.
All right, sounds good.
Take care, Noah. Take care, my friend.
Yep, take care.
Bye-bye. God bless. Alex,
Yo,
interesting conversation.
yeah, I think it's proof that sometimes you can go unscripted. A lot of the time you can go unscripted. And it also shows that all facets of truth are connected. And not just truth in the abstract sense of 2 + 2 = 4, but the application through the use of critical intelligence. And all these debates, a lot of the time we say stuff like, so all the people who say, oh, the Bible's been changed, and these are all valid positions for people to hold, but a lot of them are very difficult to determine with any sort of accuracy. It's all right making a general claim, the Bible's been changed. Right, well, what's the significance of that? So where are your proof texts? And what sources were you using? Like, even then, we looked at a 6-minute video that Richard produced. So when you've got a truth that lives inside yourself, people invariably try to get a documentary version of that. Now, it used to be at one time written down by a scribe, hopefully faithfully reproduced and communicated and not corrupted through transmission over many years. We can imagine the same about Rich's document there of 6 minutes. That might become an artifact that you could sell on eBay. Like 500 years from now, somebody could dig it up if in a time capsule. Now, you know, somebody could dig it up, try and edit it, do a deep fake on it, and then somebody could say, oh, it's been changed that. Well, on what basis? Oh, well, we know. Well, yeah, on what basis? But, you know, you would see it's a noble desire for Rich to want to preserve the truth, to transcribe it into some medium, in this case, YouTube, so he can disseminate that truth. That's not different to the process that went on with the Bible. So all people who believe they've got truth within the living man, breathing his truth, living his truth, knows that one day he'll die and his message might be lost. Even Jesus said, unless a seed dies and falls into the ground, it won't bear forth a crop. It's predicting his own death, that his disciples would run with it, that the Spirit would come, and that the church movement would grow. And using recorded scriptures. Because you need some way of testifying or ratifying or preserving a message down the centuries. So all these debates will not go away. People will continue to assert the position. They'll always try and claim this text is corrupted, this one isn't. So everyone's preferred text isn't corrupted and everybody else's text is corrupted. So we can't just make a claim and accept that because we made the claim, we're right. This is the problem that we're dealing with in all sorts of discourse. And you can't always prove claim either. So at some point, you come to the edge of the cliff and you make a statement of faith. How coherent do I believe this source is? Like with mainstream media, do I believe that story? Do I believe the BBC? No, I'm not going to believe anything in the BBC. But what about Al Jazeera? What about Russia Today? Well, they kicked that off. So the question of sources isn't going to go anywhere, whether the journalistic media sources, biblical, Quranic, whatever it is, whatever religious text it is, these debates are going to rage. But we're the living agents bringing our intelligence to the piece. That's why we're covering so many different topics, all planting a flag for our position. And of course, our position is centrally Christian. So to make a statement that this is historically a Christian country, that if you pray in this country, a prayer that involves Jesus Christ silently, you could be arrested. But on public transport, you can have trust in Allah. It's not about, that's not a question about which religion is true or not. It might seem like it is, but that's a red herring. It's what are the constituent parts of this country? Is it a multicultural, pluralist country where anything goes, and so that King Charles really is defender of the faiths, and we can just change that? Well, on what basis can we change it? Because somebody said so. Well, what about the people who don't agree? Historically and traditionally, this was a Christian country where now you'd be persecuted if you tried to pray openly in certain settings, or even silently, but you can have trust in Allah on the side of a bus. If you had Christians in a predominantly Islamic country saying, trust in God, Jesus saves.
No chance.
Right. We would see how quickly there would be no permissiveness, no freedom, no nothing. And we know this, and it's a bit of a cliche to say it, but sometimes you have to restate it, because that's not an anti-Muslim sentiment, anti-Islamic sentiment at all. It's a statement about culture. It's a statement about how the cultures are run. We're a permissive culture. That's why we were invaded by communism, because we're too open. You know, Yuri Bezmenov talks about this, and our social work and our cultural institutions have been corrupted, and we've not stood up for them. And that's why on every level, ideologically, we're being invaded. And the people at the top in position, like look at Khan in London, look at the whole demographic in London. It's totally corrupted. It's a den of vipers, and it's part of the experiment. I think you've talked about the Kalergi plan. At the end of the day, that is the agenda. This country was never conquered. This mainland was never conquered through warfare. But with the advent of the EU, from economic to political union, and all these ideas coming in, and openness to everything, now mass migration, we're bringing alternate cultures, alternate perspectives that we've all got to accept. Nonsense. That's why nationalism's good in our case and in America. That's why we've got to stand for our traditions. When other people won't, they call us racist, but we're just standing for our traditions. When other people do it in other countries, nobody bats an eyelid. So all we're asking for is a bit of consistency. I don't think that makes me any kind of racist, any kind of bigot. I'm just asking for consistent standards and saying that this has been historically a Christian country. We should allow other people to practice their faiths to a degree without oppression. I don't think we should kill homosexuals, which is the other side of it, but I don't think we should promote the transgender in schools. So you've got to give a certain amount of permissiveness within a society without oppressing, but remember firmly that we were rooted in the Ten Commandments.
Cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
Cultural Marxism. Thanks for that, my friend.
No problem.
I'll speak to you in a sec.
Yeah, no worries, pal.
Well, great conversations again. Thanks to Rich, thanks to Taylor for coming on, thanks to everybody in the chat room. Some really good topics that'll no doubt we'll keep bringing up further down the line, because we've got to at least start the conversation. You know, it's so easy to put labels on people and call people names, and you know, as Alex said about arresting people for praying silently in their head, this has got to stop. But the country has taken a real dip in change. The culture that was in this country, we've accepted other cultures, but now those other cultures are saying we can't have our culture. Well, that's not right. As Alex said, if we go to their countries and we say those things and we want those things, they say no. You learn our culture, you learn our language, you live within our culture. But we haven't got that, and we've got this melting pot now that nobody has their own identities anymore. But you know, culture is interchangeable. We can be part of this, part of that, part of that. But that's not what it's being used for. It's being used to divide. And if there's one thing what Jesus said is, I'm not coming to unite you lot. I'm coming to divide with a sword. Thanks a lot, guys. God willing, we'll see you all next week. Night, God bless.
Paul Webster, your gas is free.